Hi folks, Chris Martin here. We're up to the spring of 1905 in our recap of the World Diplomacy Championships at WeaselMoot in Chicago. And as we start this session, we have the builds from the winter of 1905. And as you'll see on the map here, we have Germany removing the army in Holland, Russia removing the army in Romania, while Italy builds a fleet in Naples, France builds a fleet in Marseille, and England builds a fleet in Edinburgh. In today's episode, we are going to look at those powers that were played by world champions, and that's Germany, Doug Moore, and Russia, Andrew Goff. In both cases, the players are now in a position where they are unlikely to win the game, but they have a large influence on how this world championship is going to be divided. So we're going to look at some of their negotiations, we're going to look at some of their analysis of the position, and then we're going to look at the moves and talk about what changes here in the spring of 1905. Let's get started. It's spring 1905. Your Germany is at three now?
Yeah, 3.
So where do you go from here? What's your goal now?
Well, the goal is to ensure that the person who ended my game, their game is ended.
Okay.
And I think I've achieved that.
Okay. You think
so
that
was Russia, that was Goff.
Okay.
He calculated that he could keep the West in chaos to his advantage in the East, which is a good play, and I approve that. He's playing a smart game. He miscalculated, however, that I would not react the way I did, which is not to try and hold them back and play a delaying game, but rather understand this is a top board and I can play kingmaker.
Right.
And so one of the key things about a top board that everyone should know is you have to have in your mind is that you're unlikely to win this.
Sure.
You have a 1 in 7 shot. So if you can't win, how would you like to win?
Right.
And as you play the game, you should also keep that in mind as you offend people or as you end their games.
Yeah.
They may take vengeance upon you.
Right.
So that's what's going on. So what I'm doing is I'm helping England and France go east.
Okay.
It also gives me the best possibility of surviving to a position where I can recover, which I have in my mind because I'm working closely with both people that were attacking me and they are no longer attacking me.
That's definitely a better situation than being eliminated.
Otherwise, they would have taken all of my dots this year, last year actually.
Right.
I would have been out of the game.
Okay.
So this gives me more play. I can have more fun because, you know, I'm actually having a pretty fun time.
Okay,
so,
that's great. Thanks, Doug. So there's Doug. He seems to have accomplished what he wanted to accomplish in setting things up so that Goff and Russia wouldn't be able to win this. And he's having a good time. He's playing the game. He says, you know, you're probably not going to win the top board anyway, so you gotta be okay with that. Well, I got a chance to catch up with Andrew Goff as well, and I asked him how he thought it was going. Although he did lose a little bit in the north, he pulled a unit in the south, he seems to be on good terms with Peter. What did he think was going to happen from here? Here's what he had to say.
I think, and it's probably been this way for a couple of tournaments, it's between Nathan Barnes and Peter Jurgen.
You don't think Chris Brand?
No, I don't think Chris Brand. I think it was between Silverman whilst he had me offside because he could then actually hold off Nathan Barnes. So I think it's a bad move by him, but it's a move that has also ended my tournaments in all likelihood, unless there's just a complete cluster explosion. So I'll aim for the cluster explosion.
All right. Good luck. So Andrew is convinced that this was not a great move by Adam. He not only took Andrew out of the game, but now he says he doesn't have any ability to do anything about Nathan, which is an interesting analysis. He thinks that either Nathan Barnes is going to win the World Championship or Peter Jurgen. And looking at Peter's Austrian position, you have to wonder why he thinks that. Well, the next thing that happens is that Doug Moore comes over and he and Andrew have a little chat. So let's catch up with them. That's an interesting conversation about who they think ought to win the World Championships.
I mean, it's not going to leave with me winning the game.
Or me now, which is
that was not
a Pyrrhic victory.
I mean, that's the objective now, but that was not the objective.
I played it badly, I really did.
Well, it doesn't matter. It's
Who do we want to win the World Championship?
I don't know who you want to win the World Championship.
Depends on how badly Barnes hurts.
I don't, at this point, want to add it to
No, not me.
So, we can agree.
No way, Adam. I'm happy with Barnes or Jurgen. Both of them play well, to be honest with me. It's if Barnes hurts, basically it's my time. Did the right thing and ended the right tournament. Silverman should have turned on France, and he probably would have.
He should also not be building in France.
We can only get one more center.
I know.
It's alright. If he turns on France, this is just a shit show. It's just horrible. But I'm done. I'm happy with Barnes with Jurgen and Barnes. Rips into Silverman and probably
Okay. I mean, I'm happy with Barnes. I'm happy with it.
Jurgen's played pretty well. Probably not Chris Brand.
I think Chris has missed 3 or 4 real key opportunities. So he probably should take them. And he has Malinsky begging to do more.
So there you have 2 world champions talking it over, seeing who they think is going to be the winner on this board. And I want to look a little more closely for a second at what they're talking about as far as Adam's play versus Chris Brandt's play, and neither of them they think are in the running, which is a little surprising to me when you consider that Adam really just turned his position from a bad position into a position that isn't bad at all. He's got, yes, probably one too many fleets. When he built this fleet in Eddie here, that might have been a mistake. But look, he's a lock to get St. Petersburg. And that'll put him at 7 centers, the same as France right now. Holding the North Sea and Denmark means he's going to be able to push in and claim Berlin and Kiel and Holland. And that's a 10-center England. And that is enough to make a real claim on the World Championships on a top board. And all that Adam has to do from here is avoid getting run into by Nathan. He's got no threat from Russia anymore. He's got no threat from Germany anymore. And so that's why I'm not crazy about this fleet build in Eddie. What's it going to do for him? It's going to go to the Norwegian. It's, then what? It's going to come around to the North Atlantic Ocean to kind of prevent against France stabbing? I don't know. I'd want another army to stick around on the island just to disincentivize Nathan from trying to do anything. But let's look at Chris Brandt here. So Chris Brandt's position is one where they say he's missed a lot of opportunities. He could be a lot bigger, a lot further along. He's not taking Dave Miletsky's advice or accepting his help against Peter Jurgen. And to a certain extent, that is true. Certainly, if the Italian and the French get bogged down into each other right here, that's going to be bad probably for both of them. Certainly not good for Chris. But what you saw in their negotiations was that they have a pretty solid demilitarized zone here in the Mediterranean. And if maybe there's a little conflict here around Munich, okay, but neither of them wants to get into this fleet battle here. So all of that being said, let's take a look now at a couple more conversations. We've got Doug and Adam talking to Nathan, and then we've got actually, we're going to start with Andrew Goff talking to Nathan Barnes and hearing what Nathan's pitch is for the reason why he ought to be the world champion of diplomacy.
Oh, relax. What? Wait a minute. Okay. I just get to decide who does win, so make your pitch.
That's at the end of the day, there's going to be a name top, and it's going to represent the hobby, this tournament, and what we do. Do you want that name to be Adam Sullivan?
No.
Shouldn't it be me?
Shouldn't it be you? That's a lovely.
Thank you.
It's you or your. It's
Yeah.
not going to be so.
You didn't catch me back when I was working with you.
And
Now I
if you're going to inflict damage on people who oppose it to you,
Where does my wrath need to go? Or Silverman?
Silverman, you take Silverman out.
I can only take Silverman out if if your people over there, I don't know, like, what are you just controlling both Italy and Austria?
No. No, it isn't.
Yeah, but I have to waste units blocking him now.
I suspect you do.
But yeah,
But that's not my doing.
Oh no, of course it's not. I just didn't know if you had any control over it.
My objective here, Jurgen has been totally honest with me. He's been really good with me.
Okay.
It's really a choice between the two of you. But if you direct your wrath towards the person who has stabbed me, I mean, again, I've used this line before, Mr. Have you ever seen the Ready?
I saw the previews, but it's too violent.
Well, try and match that with the violence towards Sylvan.
That's what's going to happen.
That's one of you two guys.
Well, unless something really stupid happens, and I mean that's some assumption.
So Baltic.
I'm on camera. Camera.
Okay. Baltic supports Sweden to go to Latvia, Norway to St. Petersburg, Belarus to Sweden.
Yep. I like that. Do you like that?
You like that?
Okay. What else do you want to discuss, and how do you want to work stuff?
Then you tell me
We
what.
need to.
Please don't tell me you need to disentangle.
No, it's not disentangle.
Thank you.
We need to keep a level of parity right now. Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
Because if it's not, we have to discuss that. Okay.
So you want another bill because I have 7.
Right, which could be St. Pete, it could be Holland, it could be.
Yeah. Let's do like make it St. Pete for now.
Yeah.
Holland.
Well, let's
leave our stuff in the
Yeah,
back.
so you're gonna just push.
I think so.
So just push and leave. Okay. Hope so.
Wow, that's one of those non-verbal tells that you're like,
That was
oh,
pretty
wow.
poor. That was bad
That's
form.
exactly.
Well, it's
so,
gonna be a lot like your stab. It's gonna miss.
whoa. So some joking around there at the end, but what I saw going on there was Adam has kind of made a transition to where he thinks he's now really in a French-English alliance. And now he's like, okay, this is about parity. I'm going to get a build, you're going to build some more, you push in your direction, I'll push in my direction. And, you can see from where he's sitting that that's really good for him. That's a win for him. We've heard Nathan talking to Andrew and some other folks about the fact that, they all want him to run into Adam. And if he does, he'll be the world champion. Well, with that, let's go ahead and take a look at what actually happens with the moves. And then we'll have a little more commentary after that. So stick around.
Ink to black, Smyrna to a Jan. Baltic supports Sweden to Gulf of Bothnia. Prussia to Silesia. Berlin supports Munich. Constantinople supports Ankara to the Black Sea. Ionian supports Smyrna to the Aegean Sea. Naples to the Tyrrhenian Sea. Trieste to Albania. Venice to Trieste. Tyrolia supports Venice to Trieste. Edinburgh to Norwegian. London to Norway. Sweden to the Gulf of Bothnia. Denmark nothing. Norway to the Barents Sea. North convoys London to Norway. Edinburgh to the Norwegian Sea again. Sevastopol to the Black Sea. Gulf of Bothnia to the Baltic Sea. Moscow to Warsaw. Moscow to Warsaw. Still Moscow to... Livonia supports Silesia to Prussia. So ordered.
I did.
Marseille to Gulf of Lyon. Spain to Western Mediterranean. Mid-Atlantic to Irish Sea. Ruhr to Kiel. Something to Holland, Belgium? Belgium to Holland. Burgundy supports Munich. Munich supports Prussia to Silesia. Serbia to Budapest. Bulgaria supports Constantinople. Vienna to Budapest. Bohemia to Munich. Greece to the Aegean Sea.
Two retreats.
This is actually destroyed.
Yep. Where
Yes.
did the attack come from?
It came from Sweden. Okay, so that's a pretty big turn. As Austria is caught napping, as Italy finally uses Dave Miletsky's help to really seize control of that region. If you take a look here, the army's sliding down here into Albania. He's putting Dave out into the Aegean. He's putting Dave into the Black Sea. Now, if, Dave is helping him, that's huge. Adam commits fully to the Scandinavian attack and is going to lose Liverpool as a result. He now can no longer defend that center from Nathan. Nathan moves strongly into these dots. And although Andrew Goff is moving to defend in a certain kind of way, he destroys that army in Prussia. He's going to lose St. Petersburg. So who could have seen this coming? Who could have known that Dave Miletsky was going to be working with Chris Brand this season? It turns out that anybody who was standing at the table could have learned this. And I've got a great clip for this. And the lesson here, I think, if you're Peter or anybody else, is that you never, ever, ever count Dave Miletsky out of the game until you've got all of his units off the table. And that's really a lesson for any diplomacy player. As long as they're in there and can write orders, they can change the course of a game. Two-center power can decide who wins a world championship of diplomacy. So let's take a look at that clip, and then I'll catch up with you next time in the fall of 1905.
Greece, Vienna, and Budapest. If he moves the correct way. Working in Bulgaria, potentially. Well, we'll see.
Still let me into the Black Sea. Taking centers off you doesn't help me.
Well, I'm trying to work with him, and I think it's in his interest to support me in there and into a team. So just doing the same thing as last turn, and he can make whatever choices he wants.